Like this.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Kevin McCluney, and I will be presenting service today along with Tom Edge, with singing by Lynn Israel. Lisa Merrill Price and Noel McCluney are providing technical assistance. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. We're glad that we can keep in touch and support our community, even if we can't be together in person. First, a few important announcements. Please be aware that we are recording this service and it will be posted on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Also, we turn off all mics and cameras for most of the service to minimize distractions and to eliminate feedback from open mics. You will not be able to turn these back on yourself. If you're on a computer, we recommend that you go ahead and show the participants window by clicking on Participants near the bottom of the screen. During announcements and joys and concerns, you can request to have your mic and camera turned back on to share by clicking the Raise Hand button at the bottom of the participants window. Mics and cameras will be restored at the end of the service for the MVUUC coffee hour. We greet you today as you join us in a wider search for truth and purpose. In this quest, may we encounter one another with open hearts and minds. May we inspire each other to consider new questions and seek deeper meaning. And may we cultivate wisdom and compassion. Let all who enter this place see a welcome face, hear a kind word, and find comfort in this community. May all that we do and say here today help us to be a force for positive change in the world. Please take a moment to think of all your friends at MVUUC, greet them with a comment in the chat box, and remember that you can still reach out to them via email, phone, social media, or video chat. Physical distancing does not need to mean emotional distancing. Let us support one another. Visitors, as we are a diverse group with varying interests and beliefs, our services are varied in format, tone, and topic. We encourage you to view several services to gain a good understanding of our congregation. If you'd like to receive our weekly email newsletter, please email us at news@mvuuc.org. MVUUC remains committed to supporting our members and friends during this difficult time of social distancing. For that reason, we are coordinating assistance with groceries, phone calls, and other needs. If this sounds like something that would be helpful to you, please send an email to sac@mvuuc.org with your name and what kind of assistance you would like to request. Now is the time for announcements. Announcements can be sent ahead of time to services@mvuuc.org to be read. If you have an important announcement now, you can raise your hand by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of the participant box in Zoom. Then we will announce your name and turn on your mic and camera so you can make your announcement yourself. Lisa, are there any announcements today?
Hi, Kevin. I do have an announcement. As you all saw, we had beautiful singing by Lynn Israel today, and it was pre-recorded. Stephen and Lynn have started doing the pre-recorded videos for us, and Steve and Lynn are interested in possibly doing that with a choir. So everyone would record their own version of the song, and Steve would do his magic and put it all together. If you are interested in that, please send an email either to Steve Israel, or you can just send it to services@mvuuc.org and we'll make sure it gets to Steve. I believe those are all of our announcements for today.
Kevin McCluney will light the chalice today. Please join me in reading the words for the chalice lighting that appear as a comment in the chat box. We light our chalice this morning, grateful for the love that we experience in this beloved community. May the flame light the way for all who seek such abundance. Today's opening words come from theater educator Rachel Harry in her talk, How Theater Education Can Save the World. To create a play requires not only a diverse set of population, but a diverse set of thinking and communication skills. You see, a theater program draws on students from all programs, all departments in a school, and each is recognized and respected for what they bring to the table. I have a wonderful story of collaboration between these different thinking skills. My stage manager decided last fall that I needed snow to fall from the ceiling in the final scene of the first act of the musical. So I described to her how a professional theater with fly space and rigging in New York City created the snow for their production of The Nutcracker. Now, my stage manager is also a dancer and a member as well of our acclaimed robotics team. She is incredibly skilled at communicating with both artists and scientists. She collaborated with my lighting designer, who is also a member of the robotics team, and using their familiarity with our agricultural base, devised a 35-foot-long snow machine made of PVC irrigation pipe and, of course, the obligatory duct tape. I actively teach this by using a process in which we would critique student performance. My student critics are allowed to say, this works, keep it, or this does not work, how can we make this stronger? And as a class, we brainstorm ways to help strengthen that scene. We consider what works for us, and then we modify that to fit the individual on stage. Embracing diversity requires just that, the ability to acknowledge and accept the strengths and weaknesses of others without judgment, and to accept the strengths and weaknesses within ourselves. What if all the countries of the world could acknowledge and accept both these attributes and then collaborate to help strengthen each other?
And now we will play We Would Be One, hymn number 318, pre-recorded by Lynn Israel. Lisa, can you please start the song?
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
During my freshman year of high school, I pretty much kept to myself and spent most of my time concentrating on my studies. But I slowly developed a small group of friends, and at the beginning of my sophomore year, I started hanging out with them more often. Many of them were active in music and theater, and they slowly tried to introduce me to those worlds. At the beginning of that school year, in the fall of 1991, I remember a few of them mentioning there was going to be a trip for members of the chorus and band to go see Les Miserables in Philadelphia. I just spent a good part of my summer break reading the novel and was intrigued by the idea that it could be performed on stage. More than anything, I was curious whether they could do justice to Victor Hugo's sweeping saga while helping us connect with the characters that he spent 1,500 pages developing. Of course, it seemed unlikely that I would go. The trip filled immediately, and since I was not in the music department, I was put on the wait list. Then, an unforeseen event changed everything. My friend Zena lost her father unexpectedly. Suddenly, I was offered a chance to go, but initially I did not feel like I should accept under those circumstances. It was Zena who told me to take one of her family's tickets. She thought that it should not go to waste, and she wanted me to go and enjoy the evening. It was one of the most selfless and graceful moments I had in high school, as this brilliant young woman wanted others to be happy in the midst of her own tragedy. I cannot begin to express the emotions I experienced in the balcony of the Forest Theater in Philadelphia. I had loved listening to music since childhood, but never connected with it on such an emotional level as I did that night. My curiosity over how they could possibly translate this story to stage soon gave way to awe when the barricade slid seamlessly into place in Act 2. The performances, music, costumes, sets, lighting, it was overwhelming to my 15-year-old self. On the bus ride home that night, my friends were eager to hear my opinion of the show. Many of them had seen it before, but they knew this was my first real theatrical experience. I connected with that show and through it with my friends in ways that I can scarcely describe. And so it was nearly 29 years ago that my love of theater began. About 5 weeks later, my biggest high school crush came up to me in the hallway one morning and said, we're doing Grease this spring and we really need guys. How would you like to be in the chorus? I responded, I can't sing, I can't dance, and I have a crippling fear of public speaking. Why would I do a musical? There was a slight pause. She responded, we really need guys for the chorus. Of course, I told her I'd think about it. She cornered me the next morning and I begrudgingly said yes. She and our friends were thrilled. I was terrified. Now, as it turns out, I could carry a tune. And if given choreography, I could follow it. But I was not kidding about my fear of public speaking. Throughout middle and high school, the mere thought of speaking to groups made me physically ill. And I'm not ashamed to say that during Grease, this affected me on stage. Even though my performance wasn't what we might call good, I kept trying. I pushed through. I didn't do it well, but I did it. In high school, I never gained the confidence to audition for a role, but I returned for chorus roles in Camelot my junior year and Kiss Me Kate my senior year. Nothing I did in high school gave me more joy, even though I did not completely conquer my fear of public speaking at that time. I did, however, begin to gain confidence that I could do it eventually. Now, I know this is a rather long introduction to my reflection today, but there is no easy or succinct way to sum up the impact that theater has had on my life. It has been responsible for some of my most important relationships with other people, for some of my favorite moments, and for expanding my intellectual and emotional horizons beyond anything I could have imagined in my youth. And I've had the pleasure of relearning and re-experiencing that love of theater time and again with each new show, with a partner in life who challenged me to expand my own theatrical horizons, and through a child who rekindled that love through their own enthusiasm. Perhaps more than anything, theater forces its participants to develop some level of empathy. Patrick Allen wrote of the impact that theater had on his life as a teenager and how it helped him to view people differently. Quote, before I took up acting as a teenager, I flat out didn't understand people and their actions. I didn't understand why people felt the need to put others down. I didn't understand why poor people didn't just work harder. I didn't understand why rich people didn't want to share. I didn't understand why people would want to hurt each other. And I couldn't fathom why people sought refuge in poisonous inebriation or why they intentionally broke rules. Honestly, I didn't like people back then, and I didn't like what they did. But theater gave me insight, understanding, and showed me that I'm no better than the people that once confused me. Rachel Harry, winner of the 2017 Tony Award for Excellence in Theater Education, stresses how crucial empathy is to the entire enterprise of theater. In a 2019 interview, she said, some teachers might model being inclusive and model empathy, but in theater, we actively teach it. When you are creating a character, you have to go through experiential exercises and actually feel those things the character feels. There's no other subject in the world that does that. Not chemistry, not algebra, no other area. Now, as someone who teaches ethnic studies for a living, I might disagree on the point that theater is the only area that teaches inclusivity and empathy. But in my classes, while students are certainly placed in positions where they have to read or listen to the experiences of people whose lives are very different than their own, they are not necessarily placed in a position where they have to feel that difference for themselves. They can choose to treat it as a mere academic exercise and close themselves off to the emotions of the people they are studying. But if you are trying to embody another person, or even if you are immersed in the process of watching another person act, it is hard to close your heart to the feelings that theater can release and the insights they provide into the human experience. Aside from empathy, I've seen so many instances of how the process of theater creates not just community, but a sense of family. We all know that family does not mean that everyone gets along all the time. It does not mean that everyone agrees on everything. But at its best, family involves a shared set of experiences, common goals and values, supporting one another, and ultimately love. I have seen how casts bond through their time together, the inside jokes, the satisfaction of seeing their vision realized, and how people have to be willing to let their guard down a little bit in order for everyone to succeed. Over the last few years, working with Horizon Youth Theater here in Bowling Green, I really began to find my own community in Northwest Ohio. Yes, it reminded me of everything I missed about performing in the theater, but it also showed me so many examples of selflessness, of sacrifice, of service. I saw older students taking the time to work with younger ones and help them improve. I saw members of our local community giving countless hours behind the scenes to paint sets, post flyers, take kids to and from rehearsals, and do all of the little things behind the scenes to make productions possible. I saw creative artists who were willing to share their talents to help others develop their own, and who helped young people see the beauty in theater. Permeating everything was a feeling of love. Love as connection, love as understanding, love as sacrifice. That love brought together students and families of radically different backgrounds and worldviews, weaving together a family from these varied strengths. Now, it is hard for me to talk about theater at a time when so many live performances have been shut down by the pandemic. It is a keen reminder of what has been lost as we wonder when the show will go on. But theater also gives us some of the tools we need to persevere and come together in times of need. Anyone who's ever been part of a production knows how collaborative it is, that what we see as the finished product is the result of countless hours of rehearsal, not to mention the often overlooked work of so many people behind the scenes, set designers and builders, lighting and sound crew, costumers, choreographers, musicians, directors, writers. Even for a one-person show, it is never just one person. When theater is successful, it is because of the visions and talents of many people coming together and working in harmony towards a common goal. It doesn't mean that the path is always smooth or lacking in conflict. Indeed, it is almost impossible to produce drama without some sort of drama. Ultimately, in order for it to work, egos need to be set aside and people need to agree on a shared vision of the desired outcome. During my first trip to New York City, when I first saw my first Broadway production in 1994, I saw this commitment to community on full display. It happened to be the day that Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, was holding a Broadway flea market in Schubert Alley. Cast members from Broadway productions were outside at the tables, selling old playbills, t-shirts, and other items to raise money for fighting HIV/AIDS. I worked my way cautiously through the flea market. There was an auction in progress, and I didn't want to accidentally spend money I didn't have. Before leaving, however, I couldn't resist picking up a t-shirt. Appropriately, it was Les Miserables. The front had a red ribbon with the lyric, "Will you join in our crusade?" On the back was a quote from Victor Hugo, a reminder that tomorrow will come, and the clouds in the sky right now are merely a temporary obstacle between us and the brilliant stars of another evening. Theater also teaches us key lessons in communication and perseverance. Everything I've said so far about the collaborative nature of theater attests to this, of how we need to work as a team in order to succeed. As was pointed out earlier, to make all the parts of theater mesh together, you need to find ways to communicate across different areas of expertise. For Anne Bogart, one of the lessons she takes from theater is how it forces us to think about the words we use to describe what we do and what we want. In a 2015 address at the Humana Festival of New American Plays, she told the following story. Do you know who Robert Brustein is? He's a great man of the theater. He founded Yale Rep and was dean of Yale Drama for many years, including the famous years of Meryl Streep and Sigourney Weaver and all those people. He became very well known, and then he was invited after 10 years by Harvard to come and start a theater company there. They gave him the building, the Loeb Drama Building, much to the chagrin of the undergraduates that had been using it. He brought this company of actors up from New Haven and started a season, and not long after, this is a true story, he went to the president of Harvard and said, "We're very grateful to be here. It's wonderful to have ART, but I'd like to start a school to train playwrights, directors, actors, and dramaturgs in advanced graduate training." And the president said, "No, we don't do art schools here at Harvard." So Bob was very stubborn and came back 2 months later, and he meets with the president again and said, we're very appreciative to be here. It's going well, the Loeb Center is good. I'd like to start a conservatory for advanced training of actors, directors, playwrights. And the president said, "We do not do conservatories here at Harvard." Bob goes away, comes back again, and says, we're very appreciative to be here, and I would like to start an institute for advanced training of actors, directors, playwrights. And the president said yes. It's an entertaining story and it's a true one, but the reason I tell it is that it's about finding the right words. Words are like keys. You don't always have the right word for the right lock, but you know that if you find the right word, the door will open. I love Bogart's story, as it reminds me of the times when theater, especially musical theater, gave me the words I did not know I needed. Whether watching Shakespeare or listening to Sondheim, I love the way that wordsmiths give us a language for understanding ourselves and each other. I miss the experience of sitting in a theater, especially when I'm watching a show for the first time and hearing a particularly witty barb or a well-written lyric. I miss thinking of how older works influence newer ones, or hearing new artists pay homage to their elders. Anyone watching Hamilton right now during the pandemic can hear references to Gilbert and Sullivan alongside Grandmaster Flash. It reminds me how much artists are constantly in conversation with one another, pushing each other in search of new forms of beauty and expression. We know that theater will return. Already, groups near and far are looking at other ways of reaching audiences who cannot see them perform in person, and new ways of performing that allow for masks and social distancing. In other words, creative people are looking for creative solutions. But right now, when we could really use their radical sense of empathy and cooperation, a lot of theaters are dark. People whose livelihoods depend upon the theater, both on stage and behind the scenes, are really suffering right now. As we deal with the ongoing changes to our society created by COVID-19, I implore you to please remember these artists. Remember the joy they have brought us, the tears we shed over their performances, the ways that their art moves us to think and feel in new ways. Look for opportunities to support theater even when we cannot attend in person. There are lots of local groups that you can help right now to ensure that they will still be there to entertain and teach us when the pandemic ends. In Toledo, groups like Children's Theater Workshop and the Village Players can use your support to keep people employed and to pay their bills. Here in Bowling Green, the Black Swan Players are trying to secure funding for a permanent home for the first time in their more than 50-year history. And of course, shameless plug, groups like Horizon Youth Theater are planning for an online fall and winter, which means extra expenses and extra challenges ahead. If you're in a position to do so, look for a chance to give back to these groups. Make a donation. Purchase a season ticket plan, even if there are no shows right now. Show these artists that we have seen and understood their message about empathy, family, and collaboration. Every time I set foot in a theater, I am reminded that we never know exactly what will happen next. Even the best rehearsed shows with professional casts deal with the unexpected, both good and bad. As we search for answers right now, let us take inspiration from the theater, where preparation and improvisation often coexist. May we find ways to work together, listen to each other, and create beauty in the process. May it be so.
And now we will play Let It Be a Dance, hymn number 311, pre-recorded by Lynn Israel. Lisa, can you please start the song?
times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Thank you, Lynn. That was wonderful. So I'm going to talk about you principle connection today. As Tom so eloquently stated, theater teaches empathy and the value of diverse perspectives, backgrounds, and skills, concepts at the core of UU principles. Theater has also provided a place for many of us who have not felt like we belonged or fit in elsewhere. Similarly, UU congregations often provide a refuge for diverse groups of people who may, at times, feel unwelcome elsewhere. Moreover, both the theater and UU congregations can provide safe spaces for growth, be it spiritual or personal. So I would argue that there are many parallels between the teachings of the theater and our UU principles, and reflecting on one may help us reflect on the other. Okay, so now more than ever, we are counting on your pledge payments and donations to help sustain and strengthen this congregation that is so important to all of us, supporting our efforts to be a community of love, truth, justice, and service. We will also be donating half of our offertory today to a local theater organization. Please click on the link in the chat box or scan the QR code and be sure to select the correct designation on the drop-down box when you donate. Thank you. now we will have one more song. We will play Here We Have Gathered, hymn number 360, also pre-recorded by Lynn Israel. Lisa, can you please start the song?
Yes, I apologize for technical difficulties. Bear with me.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Today's closing words come from actress Vanessa Redgrave. Of course, we all come to the theater with baggage. The baggage of our daily lives, the baggage of our problems, the baggage of our tragedies, the baggage of being tired. It doesn't matter what age you are. But if our hearts get opened and released, well, that is what theater can do and does sometimes, and everyone is thankful when that happens. Please join me in reading the words for extinguishing our chalice that can be found in the comments in the chat box. As we extinguish this flame, we affirm that we are wanted, we are loved, and we are grateful for the warmth of our small but mighty community.
After the service, we will turn on all videos and mics. Feel free to stay in Zoom and chat with your fellow MVUUC members and friends for our coffee hour. Please be patient as turning on the cameras must be done one at a time, and it can take a few minutes to get to everyone. And now, for our closing song, Tom will lead us in singing Go With a Song in Your Heart. You can find the words as a comment in the Zoom chat box.
Go with a song in your heart. Go with music in your soul. Leave with the memory of a melody. Go with a song in your heart. Go with a song in your heart. Now until we meet again. The joy of music is our gift to you. Go with a song in your heart. Leave with the memory of a melody. Go with a song. Go with a song. Go with a song in your heart.
Wonderful. That is the end of service, but please stay for the virtual coffee hour that follows.